Hey guys, it's Wally. Sorry for getting to this one a little late. Really wasn't sure what to say about it for a few days, but I did go see the new Ninja Turtles this weekend with my son, and he really enjoyed it, but he's 5. He's probably the target audience that they're going for with this. It took me a few days to really organize a lot of my thoughts about this one because I really wasn't sure how I felt about it. It was sort of I thought the visuals were pretty good. I thought the fight scenes were actually really good. I had a lot of my attention during the action scenes. It was not well written. You could really say it wasn't very well directed either. It seemed to cherry pick a lot from the different animated series. April is a reporter in this one, similar to the late 80s, early 90s cartoon series. Karai is involved in similar to the early 2000s and the current series. They don't ever name her in the film, but she is Karai. Baxter Stockman is in there for a cameo that's about all of 2 seconds. He really didn't need to be there. The basic origin, we all know it from Ninja Turtles. It's about the same, except with the couple of changes where they deviate in this version, where there is no Hamato Yoshi. The Turtles and Splinter were all test animals in a lab that Kirby O'Neill, April's dad, and Eric Sachs, the other villain beside Shredder, were running, testing out the mutagen, which is a part of a very stupid plan, because you find out later on that the mutagen is the antidote for this bioweapon they've put together of a combination of different viruses and chemicals and whatever, and they want to basically ransom the cure to the government and get a blank check for doing it. And that's something you sit through the movie for about an hour and then you go, really, that's your plan? It's not a very good plan. I mean, the voices kind of reminded me of something along the lines of how the voices were done in the early 2000s, but impersonated. They sounded similar to the Nickelodeon modern show somewhat as well, impersonated. Tony Shalhoub was the voice of Splinter. I really wasn't impressed with Splinter at all. He really doesn't do much. There's no real purpose for Splinter being there. He's not Hamato Yoshi turned into a rat, and he's not Hamato Yoshi's pet rat. Like I said, Hamato Yoshi is completely removed as an element of their backstory. Shredder is also just sort of there. The backstory is that William Fichtner's character there, Eric Sachs, was an American born in Okinawa, Japan. He lost his father to the Vietnam War. Shredder was a father figure to him, which with how old he is in this movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Shredder should be a senior citizen by the way they're describing it, which clearly I heard a lot of rumors of various rewrites and reshoots that were done after the original filming was completed. When you hear the Eric Sachs character telling April about his background in Japan, I think the original plan was that yes, he was going to be the Shredder, not Oroku Saki. And the backstory implied that he killed the original or the real Oroku Saki and became Shredder, or Hamato Yoshi was his mentor in Japan and he killed Hamato Yoshi. Which, even still, would have had nothing to do with Splinter and would have had no bearing on the story, so who cares? Basically, you just sort of shut your brain off for the fight scenes and enjoy some of the visuals, which are really well done for the most part. Raphael has probably the most character development of the Turtles for what character development is there. It's the best, I would say it's the best Ninja Turtles movie that I've probably ever seen, but that's not really saying much. I wasn't a really big fan of the original early 90s movies as a kid, so that already had a strike against it. I was half-half on TMNT back in 07. So, I mean, overall, like I said, it can make a strong case for being the best Turtles movie they've ever put in theaters, but that doesn't say a lot. Shredder was similar to the early 2000s by the design, and I think the way they supposedly redid Shredder for this movie, and the way they cast him was probably the best way to do it. They got a virtual unknown, as far as I'm aware, actor to play Oroku Saki. You can look up the movie on Wikipedia. This guy doesn't even have a link to a Wikipedia page. I don't remember his name at the moment. It does escape me, but I will say it was probably the best way to do Shredder for this movie, because they show him in shadow a few times looking scarred, similar to the Shredder of the modern Nickelodeon cartoon, but also being presented somewhat similar to the Shredder of the early 2000s, except he is not a businessman. We really don't have an expanded character development on him. But he spends most of the movie being seen only in the battle suit, fighting the Turtles. They really didn't need a great actor to play Shredder, because he's not really used or developed that much. Like I said, he's mostly similar to the later modern versions of the Shredder than the older versions. My biggest thought watching most of this movie is that I thought it was very stupid of them to do an origin story again, because really, I think after 30 years now, I think when you get it down to brass tacks about Ninja Turtles, basically everybody has a broad understanding, a broad familiarity with what their origin story is. They didn't need to do another one. And pretty much every adaptation, every movie, every animated series that's been new has deviated from the original Mirage comics. It's just depended upon how much it's deviated. I mean, if you're going by the Turtles Forever movie special, that's easily the best Turtles movie they've ever done, even though it was a series finale to the 2000 series and back around several years ago. But it was never put in theaters, so I can't count it for that comparison. I didn't personally really despise how they made the Turtles look in this. I also didn't really care for the most part. It really just was not that important to me. Raphael probably and Donatello had the most visual distinctness to them. Michelangelo in general just pretty much looked like you would expect some version of Michelangelo to look. Leonardo as well, except for the ridiculous chest decoration there. At least Donatello, with all the utility gadgets and the goggles and everything else, sort of, looked different. And Raphael was made to look, actually, I think, bigger, like the more brutish character of the four. I also thought the way they had him do his bandana made him look somewhat less ridiculous than how everybody is saying the designs looked. I think of all the four, I really think that Raphael looked the least silly or the most serious by default. But they also seem to have used him a little bit more than they used all of the others. And I liked it. I'm a Raphael fan. I was pretty content with it. I didn't go in expecting anything amazing. I didn't come out feeling that I saw anything particularly amazing. I would say overall, it's a Ninja Turtles movie. It qualifies to an extent. It was not the worst movie they've ever done. It's not the worst thing they've ever done with the Ninja Turtles. I have definitely seen worse. I've definitely had worse experiences. Again, it's not really something that was targeted for the older fans, I feel, no matter how they tried to make it seem like it was, you know, darker or grittier or more serious. It really didn't do that. It was still pretty much thoroughly targeted towards children. There really wasn't a lot for me to get out of it personally. Megan Fox, nothing to write home about as April O'Neil. She didn't do a bad job. She didn't do a standout job. It was just April O'Neil for the most part. Will Arnett, who plays Vern Fenwick, he's supposed to be her cameraman and also a romantic interest. And I say that because without really remembering his age off the top of my head, Megan Fox looks pretty young as April O'Neil. He really looks like the two of them together. He looked really too old for her in those scenes where they were trying to be romantic. So I'm like, I'm not buying it. I'm really not. I mean, of course, I'm sure that'll be out the window when they introduce Casey Jones in a sequel, which they've already said they will. They've already said they're going to introduce Bebop and Rocksteady as villains in another sequel. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if everything about Eric Sachs they decide to just say was all made up and that he's really a Krang or something like that. And you never see what happens to him at the end of the movie. He just sort of disappears. So it was just painfully average. It wasn't as bad, I feel, watching it. It wasn't as bad as a lot of people said it was. It also wasn't as great as a few of the outlier opinions were saying it was either. I was really, for the most part, indifferent about it. I felt pretty neutral for the most part. There wasn't enough good effort to really make anything in particular stand out. Again, I felt some of the visuals were done really well and were really impressive. I felt some of the fight scenes and the animation was pretty impressive, but with really a story that had no creative or no writing creative merit to it, it was like, well, even if the fight scenes are really good, who cares? So I mean, as far as a overall score, I would probably say I really don't feel like I can give it more than, say, I would say a 5 out of 10. It's painfully average. As far as a recommendation, I would probably say it's definitely intended mostly for kids, but maybe for if you're a really hardcore, serious, long-time Turtles fan, you can enjoy it somewhat, but I at the same time I would say it's cautiously recommended for serious fans. But then again, if you're a serious Turtles fan, this is probably a review-proof movie anyway, because I don't think a lot of the reviews that have come out about this were going to change anybody's mind or make people want to not see it or see it. I think a lot of the debate over the art design for the Turtles had been doing that for months already. So this is going to be one of those movies where I really don't feel like a lot of the reviews are going to make a difference on how people look at it. I think a lot of people debating the creative direction already determine that. But I can't really think of too much else that felt very important. I know Whoopi Goldberg was in it, but she was barely in it, and by the first act, she was gone. So it was sort of just a wasted appearance. There was really not much else to really write home about. It's a very formulaic, very safe, roughly 100-minute long action movie. They played it very safe, and there's really not a lot to write home about. But there wasn't enough about it that was really making me aggravated as a reviewer or angry as a fan to really go off and having any strong feelings on it one way or another. So I wasn't gushing about it being so great or awesome either. I feel pretty neutral about it. So yeah, 5 out of 10 on that one. And we'll be back this weekend with Expendables 3. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all of that. And we'll also be kicking off our wrestling channel this week with a review of Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman. Looking forward to doing that review and discussion. So Justin and I will be back with 2 reviews this weekend. And thanks for watching this one and checking it out. Bye, everybody.